Got the whole crew here. Football camps are starting to open. Josh Jacobs, of course, the main guy for the Las Vegas Raiders. If you are just tuning in, he's not only not showing up for the opening of their training camp, which is tomorrow out there in Nevada, he also apparently was boarding a commercial plane today out of Las Vegas. I'm not sure where Josh makes his offseason home, but that is a further acknowledgement that he has no plans currently to participate in training camp, and by that I mean sign the franchise tag for $10.1 million. Look, you've got him, and of course this leads us to Saquon later on. Same exact position. Neither one of these guys needs training camp, especially early on in training camp, to be ready for the season. But it's a problem that the franchises have. And Vegas, of course, a team that now gets a quarterback in Garoppolo, who's never played with any of these guys, now will not get any experience with him out on the field, and that is a legitimate problem.
I think that's more of a problem than when you talk about Saquon and Daniel Jones, because they do have rapport. They have played with one another. But Josh Jacobs, when you look at the Raiders, he and his quarterback have never stepped on the field together. And so there has to be some type of trust that is birthed, and that starts in the offseason and in training camp. Obviously, we know that Jimmy Garoppolo will be available for training camp.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs, there's no signs of him stepping
and again,
foot.
he personally doesn't need it. I'm sure he's in great shape.
Correct.
I'm sure he'd be ready to go. But if the idea is to build chemistry and get on the same page as your brand new quarterback, you got to be there. You don't need to be tackled or any of that stuff, but you got to be there. You guys got to get to know each other. You got to go over the intricacies of a playbook, which is why, again, it just makes no sense at all that the Vegas Raiders played hardball with him when it came to giving him a contract. Now, one of the flips of this is Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is sitting out there, 1,000-yard rusher, healthy as he's ever been. Yes, well, does Dalvin Cook make sense for a team like Vegas? Does he make sense for a team like the New York Giants as a backup plan for guys that may not sign franchise tags? Obviously, we've talked about him going to the Jets, going to the Patriots, going to the Dolphins, and maybe going to the Bills. Breaking news. The Buffalo Bills have 4 running backs on their roster. One of them is Nyheim Hines, who they acquired at the trade deadline last year from the Indianapolis Colts. We have just been told that Hines tore his ACL away from the facility. We don't know what he was doing yet, but he is out for the year. So that means, ironically enough, that the Buffalo Bills, whose new lead running back is James Cook, who happens to be the younger brother of Dalvin Cook, might be in the market for a guy like Dalvin Cook, right?
They might be in the market. I mean, they have a few different running backs on their roster. I just know with what's going on surrounding Dalvin Cook.
So let me get to that real quick. So there's a line of thinking out there that one of the reasons Dalvin Cook has not yet signed on with anybody is because he has a domestic violence charge against him, which dates back to 2020. The charge didn't come until 2021 from his former girlfriend. But a story came out on Friday that he has tried to pay her off to get her to change her testimony. Yikes. And the report that's out there is that he made 2 offers to this young woman. The first offer was $800,000. The second offer was $1 million to recant her testimony and say in front of a judge, Dalvin Cook did nothing wrong. There is also a text message, apparently, that is being floated around as evidence that he acknowledges what he did to her 3 years ago. So there's the possibility, while every team has known about the domestic violence charge, because it does date back a couple years, this new information that he has tried to pay the young woman off to the tune of $1 million to now say, I made it up, it never happened, he never touched me, might be scaring teams off.
Yes.
And I would say that, if I may, I'm a diehard Jet fan. With my running back coming off a torn ACL, Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook makes a lot of sense for the New York Jets. I want to be very clear about this. I do not want Dalvin Cook. I don't want him. I don't want the Jets to go anywhere near him. And at some point, you do have to make a stand as to what type of guys you want playing for your roster. And I know I root for teams that have gone down that road. And once that guy's on my team, I want him to do well. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it. But now that I know more information, I do not want Dalvin Cook as a member of the New York Jets.
And the reason why you don't want Dalvin Cook, even as a fan who's not a member of the executive office with the Jets, it's because of the possible distraction that he would bring and the attention that is not going to be football focused. So if you're a Vikings fan, which I live in Minneapolis, I listen to K-Fan Radio and Paul Allen and all the guys. This was as tight-lipped as possible, and it makes more sense now as to why the Minnesota Vikings decided to release a 1,000-yard rusher in Dalvin Cook, because they understood that this was the possibility, this had the possibility of getting out. Other teams now have to make a decision. Just like you and your Jets, do we want to bring this into our locker room and disrupt what we potentially already have, or add to because of the player he is, which we know the player he is, but what's coming with him, is it worth it? And that's the discussion that a lot of teams are having, and more than likely, not many teams are going to side with that.
But there will be a team. Dalvin Cook's going to play football this year, and my hope is that he's righted the wrongs, and he's gotten help that he obviously needs. It doesn't go down that road again. I further hope that the woman's okay, obviously, phically and emotionally. Dalvin Cook's going to play football. I just don't want to play football for my team. That's all.
Let me ask a question. Now, if he comes and gets with a team, he will have to serve a suspension, right?
He might not, because it dates back 3 full years, and charges weren't even filed till a year after the incident allegedly happened, and it has not seen its day in court, so he may not.
But trying to.
Or he may.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He may.
No, it can go either way.
We're talking about, is he trying to pay her off, or is he trying to settle a settlement?
Well, I would say this. We don't know everything about it, but we do know that something bad happened. And now they have to figure it out before I think he plays anywhere. But it's a good point. There is a chance the NFL could suspend him as a result of it as well. But now we know why Minnesota said goodbye to Dalvin Cook. It makes sense now. All right, we move on from Dalvin Cook. The New York Giants, they didn't want to give Saquon Barkley an extra $2 million.
Nope.
Okay, great. Can you explain to me why they signed 14-year veteran wide receiver Cole Beasley and running back James Robinson over the weekend? Can anybody tell me why that makes good football sense? Combined, they make exactly the amount of money that you did not want to give Saquon Barkley. You don't need Cole Beasley and James Robinson if you just got Saquon Barkley done. It doesn't make sense.
No, it does not make sense. Especially when what you're doing is surrounding your quarterback with talent. You're basically saying that these guys make up for Saquon Barkley.
That's exactly right.
And that we all know that is so false. That is not the reality. Look, I believe that this young man, and I've said it, that he can be and is a top 10 quarterback. But that is with 26 behind him. That is with what the value that Saquon Barkley brings, the comfort that he's had, the rapport that they've built and established, and I was expecting them to continue to build on. If you don't have this guy in your locker room who does it the right way, who guys trust, who his quarterback trusts, and which I believe, which I've heard, like, as a player, I'm going to go back to my situation in Green Bay just really quick.
Yeah, sure,
because,
why not?
You hear comments like, well, Daniel Jones hasn't said anything. And I'm going to tell you why this is a big problem. Because the one person that we believe in the locker room that has most say and leverage as players is the quarterback.
Of course.
And when the quarterback,
and that's accurate.
When the quarterback gets paid, what happens? The team and the organization decides we're going to build around the needs of our quarterback. Well, there is no greater need for Daniel Jones than him having Saquon Barkley in the backfield. So for him to not have said anything, and I don't know if he hasn't, but I
still haven't seen it.
But no one has seen it. This is how exactly I felt when I was in Green Bay, and I felt like, man, I want to be here.
Right.
My quarterback can say something, but he's not sticking up for me.
Right.
And it's putting a lot of pressure on your quarterback or your teammate.
But it comes with the price tag.
It comes with the price tag. And I'm not saying that, Saquon Barkley is upset with Daniel Jones or he has every right to be bothered or whether he is or isn't. The point that I'm making is Daniel Jones, at some point being a leader, is doing what is uncomfortable and not just for you.
And you can also say you don't agree with the organization's decision. That's what wins over the locker room.
That's the thing. He doesn't even have to say that. Like, you play with a great player. All you have to do is say, look, man, I need this guy. I want him here. That's all you have to say.
Well, they didn't want Saquon Barkley there enough, so instead you got Cole Beasley. He comes with his own baggage, by the way, and James Robinson. You know, they get the veteran minimum, but add it up, it's what Saquon Barkley and the Giants, that's how much money they were apart. It's just stupid, Tim. Hey there. Thank you so much for watching The Carton Show. You can subscribe right here to get all the latest bits and segments from the show. And by the way, while you're at it, we have a lot of great shows on FS1, so check them out too.